Did I really just start a show with my mic muted? Wow. You already know what time it is. Welcome back into the NFL with AJL, episode 45. The one and only time I've ever started a show with my mic muted if you're watching us live tonight. Episode 45, we're locked, loaded on a Tuesday. You could have been anywhere else in the world, but you're right here tapped in with me on the show. Get in the chat, get in the comments. Let me know how you're feeling about week 5 of the NFL as it is wrapped up. Hope everyone's had a blessed week, had an awesome weekend as we roll through October here, getting into this October football. Y'all make sure to like the stream wherever you're watching. Subscribe on YouTube. Also hit the bell on YouTube to make sure you never miss a post from us as we're out there on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch currently live. Check the QR code in the corner of the screen or at the NFL with AJL, of course, on all social media and podcast platforms to catch every bit of our content as we go live every week talking about the NFL. We're going to start with some Super Bowl contenders, get onto the fact of the Colts possibly winning the AFC South and finishing with a much better record than some people could think here. The first quarter all-pro teams in the NFL were through the first 5 weeks of the season. Who are the best players at every position? Anthony Richardson's health, the Colts re-signing Jonathan Taylor, NFL Week 5 takeaways, and so much more. Y'all get in the chat, get in the comments. Let me know how you're feeling about the show, what topics you might want to hear, what's on your chest about week 5 going into week 6 of the NFL season. Going to start with a little fun on the show tonight. As I did mention, Super Bowl contenders. Going to be debuting my Super Bowl bubble here as we walk into week 6 of the NFL season. And just off the top, there's only 3 teams in the NFL right now that I feel are true Super Bowl contenders. That's the Niners, that's the Eagles, and that's the Chiefs. The Niners are the best team in the NFL. They're the most balanced team in the league. People are talking about Brock Purdy, whether he should or shouldn't be in this position. Brock is playing great. He's playing very flawless football under Coach Shanahan, clearly with the defense that is kind of backing Brock Purdy. Of course, on the opposite side of the ball, he has a George Kittle, a Brandon Ayuk, a Deebo Samuel, a Christian McCaffrey. So is it all set up well for him? Yes, but it's not going to take away the fact that San Francisco is a 5-0 football team, just like the Philadelphia Eagles. Going on into the Eagles as well, another Super Bowl team, in my opinion. They were in the Super Bowl last year. Super Bowl runner-ups, NFC champions. Now, we do see Jalen Hurts take a step back a little bit. They did have that offseason where a lot of players got out of there, but they absolutely have a great NFL draft. They get some new coordinators in. So they kind of got some growing pains, right? But if there's anything true about the Philadelphia Eagles at the end of the day, just like with the Niners being the most balanced team, the Eagles are a very balanced team, and they might have the best trenches in football, offensive and defensive line, sporting a Jason Kelce, sporting a Jalen Carter, who was already getting recognition from many people around the world and really making it kind of pay for everyone that didn't want to take him there in the NFL draft. So the Niners and the Eagles, undoubtedly Super Bowl contending teams inside my Super Bowl bubble. And then I mentioned the Kansas City Chiefs as well, which is a no-brainer, right? We know Mahomes, Reed, the Steve Spagnuolo defense that's coming around this year. We're going to talk about Chiefs-Vikings later in the show, but the Chiefs are having some games in some instances in this year, not starting off very strong. Of course, Patrick Mahomes still needing to improve on what's happening at the quarterback position. Still a great quarterback, but we've seen a little bit of sluggishness with the offense out of Patrick Mahomes. But as long as you got Big Red, as long as you got Patrick Mahomes, and realistically, if you've got Travis Kelce in the mix, you're going to be a Super Bowl contender. They've been a Super Bowl contender for the past half decade, and nothing's going to change that. Now let's go outside the Super Bowl bubble. What are the teams that are just outside of the realm of actually competing for Super Bowl 58 this year in Las Vegas? Whether it's a flaw, they might not have played enough teams yet, or just straight up, I don't believe that they are going to be a team playing in playing in February of 2024 to win Super Bowl 58. The first team that's going to be right outside for me is the Buffalo Bills. And I think this could be a given to some people, right? They go into London. They lose to the Jags, who really are underachieving this year. I didn't believe the Jags were going to play this bad, but the Jags are starting to come around. They get a good win over a Bills team, and then the Bills team beating the Dolphins. So there is some credibility to this Jaguars team beating the Bills. But centering back on Buffalo, they've got to get a run game on a more consistent basis. We see in this loss to the Jaguars, 29 yards of rushing offense. We see Josh Allen have some turnovers, trusting his arm a good bit. The Bills kind of feel like they're in the position that they are the last few seasons. They're blowing out teams big, but are they really that good of teams? Are they really putting games away early on? Are they having convincing wins thus far? And I would really say only the win over Miami is going to be convincing to me because I'm not impressed with a blowout of the Raiders, one of the worst teams in the league. Not impressed with a blowout of the Commanders, one of the worst teams in the league. Of course, you lose in week 1 with Josh Allen throwing the interceptions, but the Bills still have some work to do. I need more consistency out of them against higher competition at this point in the NFL season for me to put them inside of the Super Bowl bubble. So they're just outside right now. They really could be on the line, but I'm going to leave them outside. Another team that's just outside out here, going to stay in the AFC, the Baltimore Ravens. Now, I think the Baltimore Ravens can easily become a Super Bowl contending team, and some of you out there might already think that they are a Super Bowl contending team. But when you look at what the Ravens are doing, when you look at where the Ravens are at in this position of the year and how Lamar Jackson still has plenty of room for improvement, they still have a lot more not a lot more players. They still have to get completely healthy as a team. Now, I love what the Ravens overall are doing, and I want the Ravens to realistically be able to compete for the Super Bowl. I said it coming into the year. Lamar's going to return to form. They're going to have that real elite smash mouth Ravens team, one of the fastest in the league. They're still working to get towards that. The Ravens are just outside the Super Bowl bubble. The Miami Dolphins, I think it's very clear right now what the Miami Dolphins are in terms of contending for a Super Bowl. 2, it's great against bad defenses and not as good against good defenses. And that's been clear over this season and last. He's got to stay upright. He's got to stay up behind that offensive line. We saw how different that line looked when Teron Armstead went down in that game against the Buffalo Bills. We've also seen Tua, the Dolphins, don't want them to peak too early. They are blowing out bad teams and then coming back to earth against good teams. That is my sole reservation with the Dolphins. Of course, they need to get a defense as well. They need to get a better defensive presence. The Cowboys are also going to be right outside my Super Bowl bubble as well. I really wouldn't have even put the Cowboys into my Super Bowl bubble here if I'm being realistic, because I don't think they're a team that really is going to compete for the Super Bowl. If they're even going to get past the wild card, if they even get past the divisional. And guess what? If they get to the NFC Championship, I'm still not counting on them to win and represent the NFC. We've seen this song and dance time and time again. You get blown out by the best team in the NFL. Yes, they're better than you, but you're one of the top teams in the league, Dallas, or so people tell me. I'm lower on you than most people, but the firepower you present and the way you play in most occasions, it's undeniable. It's absolutely undeniable, but I'm not going to take the bait. I don't trust Dak Prescott to win a big game for this team, to take them to a Super Bowl, to win a Super Bowl, especially not with Mike McCarthy and Jerry Jones at the helm. And the last team here that's right outside my Super Bowl bubble, the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions are legit this year. I'm shocked by the way they're playing. Jared Goff is very comfortable. David Montgomery stealing carries from Jahmyr Gibbs, as everyone says. All the fantasy owners of Jahmyr Gibbs are pissed. Just wait until Gibbs gets going, though, and I think this could easily scoot into a Super Bowl contending team. The defense has arrived. The Aiden Hutchinsons of the world, the defensive players that are actually with the Detroit Lions, and the numbers that the Lions are putting up, the way that they're able to beat teams. But I need to see it more consistently. We know the streak the Lions had at the end of last year. We know that they were a top 5 defense. They were elite offensively coming into the year. But you still got Jared Goff and Dan Campbell that need to have some playoff solidarity with each other. Maybe if they had already went through a few playoff series here or won a playoff game or two previously, then I'd be okay with that. But I like to see more out of the Lions. So the Super Bowl bubble heading into week 6, and I might update this weekly. Who knows? Niners, Eagles, Chiefs are inside the Super Bowl bubble. They are the 3 teams in the NFL that, without question, could go to and win the Super Bowl. I'd probably take a Niners-Chiefs matchup right now, and I might even take the Niners to win if I'm talking about a right now Super Bowl prediction. Outside the Super Bowl bubble, Lions, Cowboys, Dolphins, Bills, Ravens. Only 8 teams to me in the NFL right now are Super Bowl contenders. Y'all get in the chat, get in the comments, let me know what you think about the Super Bowl bubble that I put out before week 6 of the NFL season. Now let's get into the first quarter All-Pro team now that we're through 5 weeks of the NFL season. Who's the best quarterback, running back, wide receivers, tight ends, defensive players? Let's run down the list here. All-Pro quarterback, first quarter of the NFL season is going to be Patrick Mahomes for me. Without question, I think he's still playing the best football in the game. Of course, we've got some Tuas of the world and the Brock Purdy's of the world, and they're still playing great football, but they're not Mahomes, and I don't think there's any further explanation that's needed. Running back, honorable mention to Devon Achane. absolutely going crazy. Already has more touchdowns in his short NFL career than Kyle Pitts does in his third year of playing in the NFL. A-Shane, the 84th pick in the draft. Kyle Pitts, 80 picks earlier than that. And, of course, a couple years before, the 4th overall pick. Little off topic there, but that still blows my mind about Devon A-Shane scoring more than Kyle Pitts already in one season. Honorable mention to him, the absolute killer speed, over 12 yards, a carry that he's averaging, already quite a few touchdowns on the year. But the actual all-pro running back is going to be Christian McCaffrey. The yards, the touchdowns, the scrimmage yards, what he's actually doing and providing for the Niners. One of the best trades we've seen in a while, and I'm so grateful that CMC was able to stay healthy. Wide receiver 1, Tyreek Hill, might be the best player in the league right now, the scariest, most unguardable player in the NFL. We see after they come off of a week against the Bills, Tyreek Hill, his season low in targets, him and Jalen Waddle not combining for a lot, comes back this week. Great game. Yes, it's against the Giants, but Tyreek Hill is unquestionably the best, if not the second best wide receiver in the NFL. Going on to wide receiver 2, Justin Jefferson. It is unfortunate that he is going to be out with that hammy. He is going to be on IR, possibly missing those 4 weeks, a month, maybe more. We'll have to see as things play out. I want to give an honorable mention to Puka Nacua as well, though. The rookie coming in, setting the records early on under that tutelage of Sean McVay, really playing his ass off right now as people are not giving him a ton of respect, but they're going to start as the season goes over. Puka Nacua, honorable mention here with wide receiver 2 being Justin Jefferson on the first quarter all-pro team. Tight end, Travis Kelce, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. We could have put a Sam Laporta in here. We could have put a Mark Andrews in here. We could have put a George Kittle in here. But I think when we talk about the tight end position as a whole, we all know that Kelce takes it far and away. I was going to do individual O-lineman or maybe one O-lineman, one guard, one tackle, one center. I'm just going to go the entire team for the offensive line, and that's going to be the Kansas City Chiefs. I think they're the best line in the league right now. Of course, we have competition of the Lions and the Eagles and the defensive back. Boy, Marshawn Lattimore, 23 in the goal. Not who's on the jersey, but you guys know why I'm representing. The Saints got a 34-0 win, and Marshawn Lattimore over this year has undoubtedly been a top elite corner in this league, whether I was a Saints fan or not. The PFF grading, what the Saints are doing defensively, the yards they're allowing per game on the passing secondary is absolutely undeniable. DB2 for my all-pro team is going to go to Jair Alexander. Jair Alexander will be DB2 here. Great corner, obviously, over in Green Bay. We know what Jair is capable of. Very gritty, very physical corner. It's going to match up against any best wide receiver you see. And he's just now getting into the peak of his career, it feels like, still being a young player. Got to give all the credit to Jair Alexander, just 26 years old and sporting a good PFF grade every possible year that he can. Defensive tackle. Y'all might be a little shocked by this one, but I'm going Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter has the second most pressures in the NFL by a defensive tackle with 20. This man is a rookie. He is making people pay as a Philadelphia Eagle for not taking him earlier in the draft. You got to absolutely love what you're seeing from Jalen Carter. He is regularly beating pass rushes, regularly able to stop runs. He's just outmanning and outmuscling any offensive lineman you put in front of him. For the edge, I'm going to go TJ Watt. Being an absolute menace this year, he will be on pace to break that sack record. We know he should have arguably got it a couple of seasons ago. TJ Watt with the Steelers, no difference here. You hear the last name of Watt, so you know what he's capable of. Fred Warner at the linebacker position, arguably the best linebacker in the NFL next to the linebacker, too, that's going to be coming in. I'll mention that in a second. Fred Warner is the captain of that team. Fred Warner is the type of player that he's always been with the San Francisco 49ers, providing that defensive presence under that tutelage of multiple D coordinators, under that tutelage of Kyle Shanahan. And he's on the best team in the NFL, so it's not hard to pick him out here for one of the best players. Linebacker 2, Roquan Smith. Great trade to the Ravens when it happened. I was grateful that he was able to escape the Bears realistically and go over to a smash-mouth defensive culture like the Baltimore Ravens. And we know the Ravens are always going to provide defensively, and when Roquan Smith has a chance to be active in that, still sporting a good PFF grade, still making multiple plays in multiple positions on the field, you can't turn away from Roquan Smith and what he's done so far in the NFL season. Jesse Bates, safety 1, arguably the best safety in the league next to safety 2, Minkah Fitzpatrick. Jesse Bates balling out with the Falcons right now. The Falcons knew what they were getting in Jesse Bates. That's why they picked him up, paid him what they did. And ultimately, it's paying off. The Falcons needed a solid reinforcement in that secondary, and that's what Jesse Bates gives them, still being a great young player. And as much as I hate to see him over in the NFC, because the Saints are going to have to see him twice this year, once early next year, once in the game that all the homies and I are going to in Atlanta, Jesse Bates being a very, very good safety is something that a Saints fan like me does not want to see. But I got to give him his credit. And Minkah Fitzpatrick, a guy that has been at the top of the safety position for quite a few years now. We know what Minkah Fitzpatrick is capable of at that position, what he's consistently done at that position year in and year out. So it's no shock that Minkah makes the list. The first quarter all-pro team, first one I've ever done. Quarterback Mahomes, running back Christian McCaffrey, honorable mention to Devon Achane. Wide receiver 1 and 2, Tyreek Hill and Justin Jefferson, honorable mention to Puka Nacua. Tight end Travis Kelce, the entire offensive line for the Kansas City Chiefs. On the defensive side of the ball, DB 1 and 2 are Marshawn Lattimore and Jair Alexander, defensive tackle Jalen Carter, edge TJ Watt, Fred Warner at the linebacker 1 position, Roquan Smith at the linebacker 2 position, Jesse Bates and Minkah Fitzpatrick as the 2 all-pro safeties. Y'all get in the chat, get in the comments, let me know what you thought about me basically ranking the best players through the first few weeks of the NFL season at almost every offensive and defensive position. I want to talk about Justin Fields' last 2 games. Justin Fields' last 2 games, we've seen the numbers, 43 for 64, 699, is that 699? 699 total yards, 8 touchdowns, 1 interception, and a 131.3 passer rating. So as Bear fans watch this, which y'all are absolutely loving me on TikTok, thank you guys so much for the first ever TikTok to not only go over 100K, but we're pushing to 200K. I've got 200 followers just from that one post. You're absolutely showing out for me on TikTok, Bears fans, and I love and appreciate y'all for it. So as Bears fans see Justin Fields do this, yes, against the Commanders, yes, against the Broncos. I like the Commanders' victory better, but the Commanders still giving up over 30 points for now 3 or 4 straight games. And the Broncos have the worst defense in the NFL, allowing over 30 points per game. The Commanders, ironically, coming in second with the second worst defense in the NFL. So did Justin Fields possibly buy himself more time with the 2 best career games that he's got? I don't know if I can necessarily say that because, again, it's against the 2 worst defenses in terms of points per game, Denver at 36, Washington at 32, and Washington, I stand corrected, they've given up 30-plus in 4 straight games now. And I understand you got to take a first step in order to take a first step, and you have to show a flash of something. You can't necessarily help who you're playing in front of you because the schedules are made. But Justin Fields did come out and ball out, but we have to add the context to everything that we're talking about here. No joke, 2 of Justin Fields' 4 best games came in the last 2 weeks. If you go look at his most pass yards per game, touchdowns in a game, the best completion percentage, the efficiency that he was going up against, it was against 2 NFL defenses that are allowing over 30 points per game, which is not a recipe for success defensively in today's NFL. And you guys have seen me come on here and defend Justin Fields. There's multiple videos on the channel. I got into a 24-minute in-depth debate defending Justin Fields and what's been happening. And you got to take that first step to make progress. But when I look back at these games, y'all, he still had 0 pocket presence. He's still staring down his targets. He's still got a lot of slow releases. And just the habits that people down him for were still present there. So it's not really like anything changed besides the competition. Did Justin Fields overcome something? No, not really. Did Justin Fields possibly become a better player for this? I'd hope so. He had a touchdown pass to put them up 28-7 against Denver that I thought was really nice. I'll give him credit in that play. Now, the fumble that Denver scored on, I really don't think was as much of Justin Fields' fault as everyone says it was. His arm was hit as it was going backwards. If that happens, another few moments with the arm going forward, that's an incomplete pass. I thought the interception looked to kind of be a miscommunication between him and the receiver, obviously, in that Denver game when he does throw the interception to lose the ball game. But them bringing in DJ Moore and Justin Fields are now starting to mesh very well. You got to love what him and DJ are doing, growing that connection in both of those games. Now, he did have a couple of outside risky throws, I thought, to DJ Moore in that Washington game that were almost interceptions. So that could have swung the swing that could have swung the momentum of the game. And you even look in that Washington game as well. He had 2 missed throws to Darnell Mooney, early on in that game. just too much heat on those throws realistically. But the fact that Darnell Mooney seems like getting more into that offensive scheme, and he was a good target for Justin Fields over these last couple of games, especially in the Washington game. And he's got the safety blanket in Cole Kmet, clearly proving big for him. Couple of touchdown passes, 3 touchdown passes over these couple of games for Justin Fields. And I've always said, a quarterback is way different when they have when they have that safety blanket. Now, I thought Justin Fields kind of did have an ugly decision at the end of the first quarter against Washington. He got sacked, and he's literally just heaving it as he's falling down. You got to get that out of your system. That's high school stuff. That's rookie year stuff. Maybe early second year stuff, but realistically, like the talent that Justin was, where he was drafted, you want that stuff out of your system first year at the latest, if we're being realistic, right? He took a bad sack due to some indecision with about 4 minutes to go in the second quarter of the Washington game as well. So even though the Washington game, they blew him out, he played kind of worse, obviously, because of the numbers being so great. Played worse in the Commanders game and ends up winning, but he plays damn near perfect with the exception of the last few drives, which I think 3 straight drives ended up the way it does. I don't believe we can say perfect for that performance. Plays damn near perfect and ends up blowing it. So there's just inconsistencies here with realistically Justin Fields' game. And again, y'all know I love him. I defend him. I want Justin Fields to be able to succeed in this league. I love Justin Fields as a prospect. He is one of my best players. I've contemplated buying his jersey. I watched him at Georgia get misused by Kirby Smart. So I would love for all of this to be a reason that Justin Fields does get more time. But I think it bought him a little bit of time because he still choked away the Denver game. And overall, I predicted this team winning 8 games, but now that they're playing the way that they are, I see maybe 5 wins on the schedule, if I'm being honest. I mean, they could split with the Vikings. They could split with the Lions solely for the fact of it's the defensive rivals, but you can also bring that into consideration of, okay, would they really win those games? Because I know for a fact the Vikings and the Lions are better than the Bears right now. They can maybe beat the Panthers. They could possibly beat the Cardinals. But again, with the way that the Bears are playing, I thought they would be better than this. I think a lot of people thought that they would be better than this. Bryce Young's probably going to get nice and comfortable by the time the Bears do see them. The Cardinals, of course, they beat the Cowboys. So I think they personally have the will to beat just about anybody. Despite of how you feel about the Cowboys, it was still a good win for them. I wanted them to be that team that won the NFC North this year. I had them winning the NFC North this year at 8-9. I had the NFC North being one of the worst, worster? Why am I struggling on that? One of the worst divisions, Lord, of the year. But Justin Fields bought himself a little bit of time with this. There's still a very good chance that Justin Fields is going to get moved off of for Caleb Williams if the Bears have the number 1 pick in the draft. Are they tanking for Caleb? Who really knows? And again, Justin Fields played really good these last couple of weeks. 2 of his 4 best career games came in the last couple of weeks. But it was also against 2 of literally the 2 worst defenses in the NFL in terms of points per game, giving up 36 points per game and giving up 32 points per game. Just wow. Nobody in the chat yet. Y'all get in the chat. Y'all get in the comments. Let me know what you're thinking about the show so far. We chopped it up about Justin Fields. We did our first quarter All-Pro team. We've got the Super Bowl bubble. And I'm going to roll right along into Anthony Richardson's health. Anthony Richardson's health is really, really, really concerning me. And we know Anthony Richardson coming in, only 13 college games, the most raw prospect we've arguably ever seen. I didn't necessarily like to pick that high, but Shane Steichen becoming head coach changed everything for the Colts, and they saw what they saw in Anthony Richardson, and the Steichen toolage, as I've talked about on social and in the past, is clearly working its magic right now. But Anthony Richardson is now out with his 2nd injury of the year. He suffered a grade 3 AC sprain on the throwing shoulder, which means he's out for at least 4 weeks. He could be out for 6 weeks. I'm just very, very concerned about his health already because now he's already missed 1 game with a concussion. That was in week 2. He missed the very next game. That was when him and CJ Stroud were set to face off against each other, and I was pissed that he got injured. I actually changed that game because the only reason I was watching it was that him and Stroud were going to face off. But Anthony Richardson already having a 2nd injury, this one being pretty major, if you ask me. The AC sprain in the shoulder. We saw Derek Carr struggle with that. He came back, loses. Don't think he should have played. We've heard of Drew Brees playing through AC sprains. We've heard of other quarterbacks play through these AC sprains. But when it's on the throwing shoulder, And when you injured it the way Anthony Richardson did, being out for the amount of time he's going to be out for, it can do nothing but worry you. I think it can be coached out of him because of how Shane Steichen has coached so far this year. Again, he's my coach of the year right now, mostly because of what he's doing with Anthony Richardson. But I think the Colts are playing with house money. They're 3-2. They're well above expectations right now. And Anthony Richardson has a pretty good offensive line in front of him. The Colts don't give up a ton of sacks. Now, Anthony Richardson is a mobile quarterback, so it can be possibly harder to protect said quarterback. We've seen that in the past with just numbers reflecting as quarterbacks move around more. But what Anthony Richardson has done so far, and really a small sample size, is impressive, and I don't want that to be hindered or halted by an injury, by him being reckless. I get it. Huge build, Josh Allen 2.0, but a mix of Trey Lance because you don't know what he is. But he looks great through the first few games. And again, freaking credit to Shane Steichen. I cannot overstate it enough about how much coaching actually matters in this league. So he's out for at least a month. It could be 6 weeks. The Colts' record without him can get interesting in this predicament because all of these games are winnable. If he misses just 4 games, he's going to play the Jaguars on the road. He's going to play the Browns at home. He's going to play my Saints at home, and he's going to play the Panthers on the road. If he just misses 4 games, again, they could win all of these games. They could win their next 6 games without Anthony Richardson based on the schedule, how the Colts are playing, and how Shane Steichen is coaching these guys and got them performing at this type of level. If they miss 4 games, I think their floor is 1 win. I think their ceiling is winning all 4. I think they'll go 3-1 in this stretch. Y'all know I'm not going to pick against my Saints. Yes, we are going to be on the road, but I believe our defense could be too much for Anthony Richardson. Excuse me, he's definitely not going to play that game. So it's going to be too much for Gardner Minshew. I do think Steichen will coach a hell of a game. It'll probably be a close one. If Anthony Richardson misses 6 games, so after having the Panthers on the road, he would go and play, the Colts would go and play the Patriots on the road, and then they would host the Buccaneers. If he misses 6 games, I think it's a low of 1 win. I think it's a high of 6 wins, but I think they'll go anywhere between 4-2 or 5-1. So the Colts can come out of this being anywhere from 6-3 to 8-3. I mean, they really can. The Colts can come out of this stretch still being in a very good position. We got the Jags. We've got the Texans. We've got the Titans in the division who this division is just heating up. People thought the AFC South was going to be the Jaguars to take. Jaguars are a top 7, top 8 team to everybody. Definitely not playing like it right now. But Anthony Richardson going through this injury might not be as bad for the Colts as what people are saying in terms of what the record can be. Again, I don't want AR to stay hurt. I don't want him to be hindered. I don't want the Colts to have their possible franchise quarterback, and because of how mobile he is and how young he is, his career gets cut short. I'm not saying his career is going to get cut short, but when we see quarterbacks early on, I just talked about it with Joe Burrow being Andrew Luck. I don't want Anthony Richardson to possibly get an Andrew Luck type of, not treatment, but outcome, because I think the Colts are doing a great job building around Anthony Richardson. I believe the offensive line that they have right now, I believe the coaching, again, that they have right now, the weapons that they're putting around him. They just re-signed Jonathan Taylor. Unfortunately, it feels like at the expense of Anthony Richardson. But Anthony Richardson is a star in the making, an absolute star in the making with what is happening. And I can't wait to see him continue to grow. He's making amazing throws, very mobile, cutting on a dime, can be strong. Let him learn to get that toolage together and read a defense. And Anthony Richardson is going to be a very scary quarterback to play on Sundays. And I think we're going to see him in some January and Februarys if the trajectory he can be on with Shane Steichen actually comes to fruition. Again, he suffers a Achilles 3 AC sprain. He's out for at least 4 weeks, could be out for 6. I think they'll go between 6-3 and 8-3 as an overall record through these next 4 to 6 games as they do walk into it 3-2. They could win all of them. Colts fans, y'all get in the comments. Let me know, how do you feel about Anthony Richardson's health? Are you nervous? Do you think he could be doing better things to take care of himself? Maybe that's a given. I want to stick with the Colts here, though, as the Indianapolis Colts re-signed Jonathan Taylor. Finally, feels like at the perfect time, 3 years, $42 million. And the reason I think it feels like at the perfect time, although Anthony Richardson is going to miss that time with the AC sprain, the 7th best rush yards per game without Jonathan Taylor is impressive. Now, people are going to be on the flip side as a caveat saying, well, why the hell would you go and pay him the amount of money you did, making him one of the highest paid if you're already knocking it down literally with a top 7 rush yards per game offense? I don't think they were expecting Anthony Richardson to get hurt, of course, but now that he is, this signing feels even better. Already having the 12th best offense in points per game and yards per game offensively without your best player in Jonathan Taylor is, again, another testament to Shane Steichen. But this feels like it happens at the perfect time because the Colts, with what they're facing coming up with their schedule, they could be okay through that. Getting Anthony Richardson back, he is going to have to be inched back into the game, of course. But Anthony Richardson having that solidarity of Jonathan Taylor behind him, now knowing it's going to be behind him when he comes back, oh, man. People were hoping to see Jonathan Taylor play this year because they were projecting JT and AR to be maybe the best rushing duo as a quarterback and running back, or maybe just rushing duo in general in the NFL. People had that type of hype about them. And I'm like, hey, I get it. I understand what the two of them could provide. But with the way the Colts are playing already, I know I keep talking about Shane Steichen, but the way he's coaching this team is insane. And that's why they are in the position they're in. Poaching him from the Philadelphia Eagles, seeing what he did with that Eagles offense. Now he's got him going toe-to-toe again with Trevor Lawrence in week 1. He could have beaten CJ Stroud in week 2, which would be a huge plus on his resume, seeing how CJ Stroud is playing right now. Especially the way CJ Stroud is playing right now. If Anthony Richardson would have been able to pull off that win, people are possibly putting AR over CJ. And there's posts out there talking about, oh, is CJ Stroud better than Anthony Richardson? I think yes. People want to talk about the touchdowns over what Stroud's got, but I'm like, best ability is availability, and that's what we need to see from Anthony Richardson. But some people would ask about this Jonathan Taylor signing. Why would they re-sign him if you've already got the 7th best rush yards per game? Couldn't you have used another wide receiver? Couldn't you have used another tight end? The trade deadline's coming up on Halloween. And while all that is very true, I think Steichen really understands what he's got here. I think Steichen gets the fact that he's got a gem in AR. He's going to be able to get Gardner Minshew through the next 4 to 6 weeks because he's already had to play in a couple of occasions this year. And he's got this offense clicking. Now, the defense is going to need to be different because when you go look at the next 4 to 6 games without AR, Jags offense could click. Browns offense could click. Saints just won 34-0. Panthers, not too worried about it. Patriots, Bucks, not really too worried about it. Bucks will play some solid football. I think the Colts can still win that. But their defense is going to have to step up. The Colts' schedule, as it plays on through the next few weeks, I want to make sure I have it pulled up here. I'm not muted, am I? No, I don't think I was muted. Let's see. Colts schedule. So after they play the 6 games there, so for the remaining of the season, they've got on the road against the Jags, at home to the Browns, on the road or at home to the Saints, on the road at the Panthers, on the road at the Patriots, hosting the Bucks, on the road at the Titans, on the road at the Bengals, hosting the Steelers, on the road at the Falcons, hosting the Raiders, hosting the Texans. When I go through that, I see a win against the Falcons, a win against the Raiders. I think they could have a win against the Texans. Did they beat the Texans early on? No, I think they'll drop that to the Texans. So I see a win against the Falcons, win against the Raiders, win against the Steelers with the way the Steelers are playing right now. I got a loss to the Texans. I got a loss to the Bengals. I think they'll beat the Titans. I think they can beat the Bucks. I think they can beat the Patriots. I think they can beat the Panthers. I'm not going to pick them against my Saints. They could beat the Saints, no doubt. I think they can beat the Browns as well. Now, the Browns could come in and win that football game, and it's going to be a tough one against the Jags. But as I go through all that, this could easily be an 11 to 12 win football team. Did anybody think that this could be an 11 to 12 win football team coming into the year? Because the Colts are 100% in the mix. I just said it with the last short I put out. The Colts are 100% in the mix to win the AFC South with the way the division is, the re-signing of Jonathan Taylor, and the way this team is being coached right now. It's possible for them to get to an 11 to 12 win team because of the schedule. When you go look at the schedule, who they're playing at home, who they're playing on the road, when their bye week is going to fall, getting Anthony Richardson back healthy, it's in the Colts' favor. It is highly in the Indianapolis Colts' favor. I think the Colts can win the AFC South. I do. I love the fact that they re-signed Jonathan Taylor to the 3-year, $42 million deal. That's their best player. The team was clearly different, at least under the previous coaching, without him. We saw the fall off in the numbers offensively for points per game, yards per game. They manage a 3-2 record without him, their best player, their superstar, game-changing running back. And now they re-signed him, unfortunately, at that expense of Anthony Richardson. But the Colts are going to be a very interesting team to keep your eyes on as we go through the season. This has been episode 45 of the NFL with AJL. I appreciate everybody tuning into the shows. You could have been anywhere else in the world, but you're right here tapped in with me on the podcast. Please make sure to like the stream wherever you're at. Subscribe on YouTube. Hit the bell on YouTube so you never miss a post from us, whether it's in the community, a short, a live, a medium form clip. As always, the QR code in the corner of the screen will give you every bit of the NFL with AJL social media and podcast content at the NFL with AJL on all social media platforms. And as always, we're sponsored by Buy and Sell with AJL for all your worldwide professional real estate needs, whether you're looking to buy a home, sell a home, or invest in real estate. Buy and Sell with AJL has absolutely got you covered. Make sure to get at them on social media in their DMs or drop your name in the comments, drop your email in the comments to get on their exclusive real estate newsletter, keep you ahead of all the daunting media headlines with these highest interest rates we've seen in 23 years. You can also get at them as well to get on their AI that they just implemented into the business too, to give buyers and sellers exact hyperlocal information based on a specific property that you might want to see. Going to get into a break. We'll come back on the back half. We're flying through the show. We'll have some NFL games, power rankings, and then we'll get out of here. Welcome back into the NFL with AJL, episode 45. Appreciate y'all being tapped in with me live on the show on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Y'all make sure to like us wherever you're watching. Share the stream. Get at us on all social media and podcast platforms, please and thank you. I know you see the Kamara jersey switched out with the Acuna jersey. Yes, I'm a Saints fan and a Braves fan. Get the hell over it. It's my show. I can do what I want. The Braves are in the playoffs. You know I got to support. Got to have them up on the wall. My boy AK coming back. Saints win 34-0. So you already know I'm going to be representing. And we're going to get right into this game as well, as the Saints shut out the Patriots 34-0. And I was an idiot, and I picked the New England Patriots to win this football game because of us blowing the lead to Green Bay and a 9-point showing in a blowout at home as we let Baker Mayfield dice us up and lose 27-9. But I'll never pick against the Saints again. At least for right now, I will never pick against my New Orleans Saints again. But let's ask the real question of, did Pete Carmichael save his job? We heard all the rumblings. We've heard it all year. Pete Carmichael, Matt Canada, hand in hand. They know what's going on. Or do they? Because they clearly don't offensively for the teams that they're producing for. Did Pete Carmichael save his job? No. To me, Pete Carmichael did not save his job. You go and look at our offense over the year, and even back to last November, we've got a couple of single-digit showings. We lost 10-7 to close out the year at home to Carolina. 27-9 at home this year to the Bucks as favorites in the Dome. Now, I understand some of that's Dennis Allen. I understand some of that's Pete Carmichael. But when we're talking the offensive side of the ball, we've got proof going way back to November of last year. And we saw what Pete Carmichael was calling and putting on the field. And it was an absolute abomination. Straight up, it was. The Saints were not putting good offense on the field. We did what we were supposed to do in this football game. We came in, we blew out a bad football team. Congratulations, New Orleans. You got a win under your belt where you finally didn't play down to the competition like you did against the Titans, like you did against the Packers. Who's the second win of the season? Who's the second win of the year? Am I really a Saints fan if I don't know my second win of the year? Y'all got me so tapped out. Who is the second win of the year for the New Orleans Saints? Oh, yeah, like y'all did against the Panthers. The Saints have played down to their competition all year. And for the first time, they finally didn't. They take advantage of an outdated Bill Belichick offense. They take advantage of an average to below average quarterback in Mac Jones. Gotta love Tyrann Mathieu with the pick six. Carl Granderson getting in there and doing what he's supposed to do. Carl Granderson coming off of the payday, becoming that force with Cam Jordan, Pete Warner getting some plays in this game as well. Marshawn Lattimore still doing his thing. And I understand it's against a bad offense. But just like I said with Justin Fields, you got to take a first step in order to take a step. And that's what the Saints had to do here. Do I think we can turn the corner? We got Houston up next. We got Texans up next. They're not great defenses overall. So we could turn a corner here, come out of this 5-2, and feel like we were where we were with Sean Payton when Jameis was 5-2 before he tore the ACL. Not the same context, but Saints fans would feel good at 5-2. We got to see what Pete Carmichael does against other teams this year. We got to see what Pete Carmichael does against those elite defenses that we're going to potentially see later in the season. And I just want to go through the schedule because these are the games to me that Pete Carmichael is really going to be tested in. I think the next two he will. Falcons could be one. We played the Falcons twice. The Rams are playing solid football. We got to play the Lions. We're going to have to see the Bucs again. Those are the games I'm keeping my eye on for Pete Carmichael. I'm happy for what Pete did. Alvin Kamara played great in this game. Another 24-25 touches. Michael Thomas, Rashid Shaheed, Derek Carr looking solid. We did what we were supposed to do. 17 points off of New England's turnovers. Mac Jones now has 6 turnovers in the last 2 weeks, and the Saints were a major part of that. So I'm proud of my team for what we did. I'm proud of us for going on the road in Foxborough and shutting them out. Anytime you can shut out a team in the NFL, you feel great about it. Whether it was 2002 or 2022. So I'm happy for what the Saints did, but they did what they were supposed to do. What are you going to be against the Colts? What are you going to be against the Texans, the Jaguars, the Falcons twice? If the Vikings get it together, the Lions, the Saints had a schedule coming into the year which ranked as the easiest. And now that I'm actually a fan of, not actually a fan, now that I'm witnessing as a fan of a team that has the easiest schedule, I see why it can be BS. Because the Rams are playing above expectations. The Bucs are playing above expectations. The Lions might be playing at expectations. The Colts are playing above expectations. The Texans are playing above expectations. The Jags are playing below expectations. So the way that this schedule can shake out, Pete Carmichael's going to have his work cut out for him. We still got October, November, and December football to play. That is where you are made as a man in the NFL. That is where the made men emerge from the boys in the NFL. Do I think Pete Carmichael can do it? I almost wanted to say absolutely yes, but realistically, as of right now, I don't. I'm not going to sit up here and blow the doors off of the show and get all hype and ridiculously happy when we did what we were supposed to do against an inferior team. It's just about time we didn't play down to the competition because we had done it all year. We had done it in the recent years, and this team is too talented to be 3-2. This team could easily be 5-0, and I don't say that as a homer. We should have beat the Bucs. We should have beat the Packers. I think if Derek Carr stays in that game, yes, Rashid Shaheed got the punt return touchdown. I think the Saints are fine. The Saints are way too talented to be 3-2 where they're at right now, so I want to see how the rest of the schedule plays out before we just get up here and absolutely blow the doors off because of what the Saints did. But there were some good takeaways from this football game, I will say. There were some great takeaways from this football game. And when you look at Derek Carr's shoulder still being something that, was a little questioned, he only threw the ball 26 times. That was the fewest the Saints have thrown the football all year. Only 11 passes in the second half, and that's because they were so far in front. No turnovers from the New Orleans Saints. Derek Carr had his best passer rating on the year. They performed in the red zone. They might have only had 304 total yards of offense, but the Saints were 3 for 3 in the red zone, 3 trips, 3 touchdowns. And that was the difference offensively for the New Orleans Saints. The Saints were the worst in the NFL in red zone touchdown percentage walking into that game against New England. And, some people are saying like, oh, you do feel good about this one because it feels like a ton of frustration and just all the shit, realistically, the Saints have been putting on the field. They just finally let it all hang out in the best way possible in Foxborough. Alvin Kamara was clearly Alvin Kamara in this game. He's got 25 touches this week, 24 touches last week. I don't necessarily want to see AK getting used at that clip because naturally when you get used that much, you are going to, run into injuries potentially. But the Saints just need to keep feeding Kamara if that's what it's going to take to win football games. Congratulations to him. Passing Marcus Colston is now the all-time New Orleans Saints leader in touchdowns, up there with a Jimmy Graham, Dalton Hillard, Deuce McAllister, Mark Ingram, Marcus Colston, and now Alvin Kamara at the very top for the New Orleans Saints franchise record with touchdowns. And I was pretty impressive by that because it shows how much of a clip that Kamara can get into the end zone on. And it's just an invaluable trait in the best way possible that the New Orleans Saints take advantage of and realistically just continue to make him a weapon in their offense year over year. Now, we know what the Saints defense is. We know what the Saints defense is. They held the Patriots to 1 for 14 on third down in this game. Mac Jones had his worst passer rating of the season. The Saints are now 4th in total defense, 4th in points allowed, and 3rd in third down conversion defense. This is the best defense we've had in a very long time. The combined passer rating against the Saints is 66.1. That is the best in the NFL. No team has been lower than that over the course of a season in 4 years. They're sharp in the red zone. They're going to get after the quarterback. They're going to cause turnovers. And they're going to make life a living hell. So, DA, again, bro, I talked about Sean Payton coming back. Slide you back into the defensive coordinator position because you're clearly doing your job. You're an exquisite defensive play caller 99% of the time. I don't believe Pete Carmichael saved his job, but you got to take a first step in order to take a first step. And I'm excited for what's to come because we better have 2 victories against the Texans, and I'm going to be there against the Jags next Thursday. I'll be driving back from New Orleans that Friday before we have a show, possibly that Friday night here in the studio in Georgia. But Saints fans, y'all get in the comments, get in the chats, let me know what you think about the Saints blowing out the Patriots. Shutout victory, 34-0. I want to talk a little about the Patriots here before we get on into the next couple of games, power rankings, and then we're gone. This was the second worst loss of Bill Belichick's career. After last week's thumping of 38-3, they lose 34-0. As we've seen the numbers, the Patriots are losing 72-3 in their last 2 games, and 2 of Bill Belichick's 4 worst career losses have come within the last 14 days or within the last 2 weeks of the NFL season. Excuse me, trying to get too technical. They're 1-4. That's their worst start in 23 years when he started 1-4 on the way to a 5-11 finish the first year that Bill Belichick was with the team. The Patriots this year are last in points per game at 11. Remember, the Bengals were at 12. They're last in EPA per play, last in EPA per dropback, last in EPA per rush, 26 in yards per game, 28th in yards per play. They're tied for second to last in turnovers. They're probably they're probably dead last in the league in turnovers now because they were tied with the Raiders, who just made Jordan Love throw 3 interceptions. So they are dead last in the NFL in turnovers. EPA per dropback, EPA per rush, EPA per play, points per game. And they went 1 for 14 on third down. The Patriots have not forced a turnover since week 2 of the NFL season. New England was tied for the second best defense in terms of turnovers last year with 30. The New England Patriots had 30 takeaways as a defense last year, and they're dead last in the NFL this year. Now, I understand Christian Gonzalez went out. I understand they've had some injuries. I get that. When you lose good players, that's going to affect you. But this is not a Bill Belichick-led defense that we've seen time and time and time again, especially after the last 2 weeks. I think it's time for the Patriots to make a decision on Mac Jones as well. It is 100% Mac Jones decision time up in Foxborough, out there in New England. Mac Jones has 6 turnovers in the last 2 weeks. His 3rd interception in the last 2 weeks, 2 of those being pick sixes. One for the Honey Badger, my boy Tyrann Mathieu, looking so great out there in a white and black uniform. Mac Jones has had the instances of being a dirty player. But more than anything, I was never high on Mac Jones coming out of college. I mean, yeah, he was a good Alabama quarterback. I didn't think he was better than Tua. I didn't think he was better than Jalen Hurts. I didn't even think he was better than Bryce Young. And that's not a knock on Mac, because he, at least we'd like to think, is in the mix of those Alabama quarterbacks that Nick Saban has been churning out lately. He goes 10-7 in his first year. He gets the doors blown off of him by the Buffalo Bills. Really no surprise there. But he led the Patriots to the playoffs in his first year, starting rookie quarterback. They cut Cam Newton right before the year. So he had some pressure on him. Now, I will say the roster looks worse. Of course, the offensive weapons are not there. Were they ever there? Not really. They're kind of overpaying for Juju Smith-Schuster. They bring in 2 tight ends a couple of years ago. What's going on with that? So I'm not going to sit here and completely crap on Mac Jones, because I do think he's getting a slight Justin Fields treatment in terms of just outdated coaching. I think Bill is a great coach, but I think it's time to admit that the game has passed him by, at least offensively. I heard a great take from great take from Stephen A. Smith, actually. Let me just go ahead and give credit where credit's due. Stephen A. said, if the Patriots realistically want to fix things, they got to walk right up to Bill Belichick and say, hey, you can be head coach for the rest of the year, but you're not being a general manager. You're not doing it. Because the way that the Patriots do and don't draft, and the players they will cut to go sign free agents, Bill's cheap. He'll pay his kickers, who's 4 for 8 on the year, and blaming it on the scoreboard in the stadium. But I think we have to be realistic, really back in. I think we have to be realistic with the fact that Bill Belichick's time has passed him. We're kind of starting to have the same conversations about Mike Tomlin as well, because when you just can't get more than a 500 year, when you can't hold it down in the playoffs when you get there, yes, he got them to Super Bowls. Yes, he won them Super Bowls. But when you talk about when the NFL really went to an offensive league around, I don't know, I feel like 20, maybe 15, 16, just mentally when I think about it, was the year that the NFL just really took a step up in offense, The year that Matt Ryan won MVP is kind of what I'm recalling here. The Steelers and the Patriots have not been there consistently to be able to compete with the top teams in the league, or not compete with the top teams in the league, because we both know that they've been competitive since, and the Patriots have had Super Bowls. But offensively, and especially ever since Brady left, Bill Belichick is a sub 500 coach. Bill Belichick in the last 10 years has drafted 2 All-Pros. One was a punter, one was a punt returner. Well, you're in the AFC East. You're in the AFC. You're in the most loaded conference in the NFL. You've got the Jets. You've got the Bills. You've got the Dolphins. That could get real ugly next year real fast. Now, coming into the year, I had the Patriots winning 5 football games. I had them as a 5-12 team. Their roster is outmatched by almost everybody in the league. They really might have the worst roster in the NFL. Straight up. I get it. J.C. Jackson came back. They've got a Christian Gonzalez. They've got some players. But this might be the worst roster in the NFL, realistically. It's time to make a decision on Mac Jones. It's time to start talking about Bill Belichick's successor in the head coaching position. Robert Kraft's going to have to look inward. And the Patriots have some rebuilding to do. I think it's about time that they tear it down to the studs. Now, credit the NFL Mike. He was saying on TikTok that what if the Patriots had an evil plan to just tank for Caleb Williams and then Bill Belichick get a hold of Caleb? I would argue that's not good, because Bill is not an offensive-minded head coach. He's not. 11 points per game for arguably the greatest coach in NFL history. Pats fans, y'all get in the chat. Let me know what you think about Bill Belichick, about Mac Jones. Who's the next head coach for you? What type of decisions do the Patriots have to make to get them moving forward and back to the team that we know they can be? The Jacksonville Jaguars beat the Buffalo Bills 25-20 in London. The Jags are now a 2-0 football team in London. And this was a game that I didn't expect the Jags to come in and win. The Jags had been playing not the best football. When they beat the Falcons, I'm like, okay, I trusted them for a rebound there. They're a better team than the Falcons. Didn't really trust Atlanta. But to beat the Buffalo Bills, who just beat maybe the best team or second best team in the NFL in the Miami Dolphins, by the way they did, by 28, to go and lose 25-20. And it's kind of getting back to the point of, are the Buffalo Bills showing us these fraudulent characteristics again? Are the Buffalo Bills potentially frauds? Because they blow out the Commanders. They blow out the Raiders. We've seen them beat the Dolphins, all bad defenses. Arguably the 3 worst defenses in the NFL. Next to the Chicago Bears. Blow it against the Jets, losing 25-20 against the Jaguars. And the Jaguars are a team that are still building. You should have won that Jets game. I get it. High emotion. Aaron Rodgers goes out. It was just maybe meant for the Jets to win that game. But realistically, you should have won it. You shouldn't be sitting here in 3-2. And we've seen the Bills year over year blow out bad team, blow out bad team, blow out bad team, maybe even blow out a good team. But then they turn around and just put up a head scratcher like this. And I get it. We just got out of September, early October. 5 weeks of the season have unfolded. But you have to be real about what the Buffalo Bills are continuing to show year over year. There's a couple of plays from both teams here that I really liked what they showed us in this football game. There's a 3rd and 1 scramble with 2.5 minutes to go in the second. I thought it was really nice by Josh Allen. He capped it off with that perfect 2-minute drill to Stephon Diggs. Josh was very, very sharp in this game and really sharp on that drive. He even had a batted pass on 2nd and 11 in the beginning of the third, which I thought was a pretty good play. I believe they had that on Trevor Lawrence when the Jags were deep in their own territory, and the Bills did a good job between defense and special teams at putting Jacksonville deep in their own territory as well. Josh Allen, 65-yard flick on 1st and 10 with about 9 minutes to go in the third quarter. Absolutely insane. True testament to what he's capable of. He had the clutch turnover in the fourth quarter with the fumble on Trevor Lawrence. And what a play by Josh Allen on the touchdown pass with 4 minutes to go. And he had a ton of big throws in this game. I mean, it felt like Josh was not loading up to throw huge. It looks like it's just, maybe 25-yard pass. There it goes, 55, 65 yards down the field. Just flick of the wrist. Josh Allen is an absolute monster. But at the end of the day, Buffalo had no answer for Travis Etienne. They had no answer for Trevor Lawrence. And this was really kind of the Clemson show, a reuniting of these teammates really balling out in this football game for the Jaguars. Now, they scored 13 points in the fourth quarter, which, of course, was too little, too late. But the Jaguars bent. They didn't break in this football game, though. And we've seen that be a rhythm of them time and time again in the NFL season. Josh Allen, 27 of 40 for 359 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Stephon Diggs had 8 catches for 121 yards and a touchdown. Gabe Davis, who continues to sit on my fantasy bench like an idiot. I don't even need to play fantasy anymore. Gabe Davis caught 6 passes for 100 yards and a touchdown. Buffalo, though, had just 29 yards rushing in total. And that's what hurt them. When I look back originally at the box score after this game was over, I was like, damn, Buffalo did not run the ball. And Josh Allen, again, was their leading rusher. The Bills are slowly moving out of this whole narrative of, the Bills can't run the football. It's just Josh Allen, this and that and this and that. 1, you probably wish you would have kept Zach Moss. 2, I respect what's happening with James Cook, and he's going to continue to get implemented more. But I think it just still goes back to that weapon that Buffalo still needs. Gabe Davis is having a good year. I think a lot of people expected Gabe Davis to have this year last year. He didn't. Now he's busting out this year. A couple great games so far. I want to get some prayers up for Matt Milano. He goes out injured in this game. Major loss for them. It seems like the injuries are piling up as they just lose Trey White as well. But thankfully, Von Miller is going to be getting back. And the Bills should not have lost this football game. They shouldn't have. They fought to the end. They fought to the very end of this game. But when it came down to it, unfortunately, they didn't get it done. Now, the Jags had some solid plays in this game as well. Again, credit them, back-to-back wins in London. They're really starting to come to life. They escaped this game with 2 turnovers. The 2-point conversion pitch was really beautiful to Travis Etienne in the first quarter of the game. You got Trevor Lawrence throwing on a 3rd and 11 right after the batted pass that I just talked about earlier, deep in their own territory by Buffalo. Trevor Lawrence throws a nice 3rd and 11 to get the first down. And a really nice interception on Josh Allen's bomb thrown inside the 10 in the fourth quarter. That really was able to seal the game and put it away. And overall, just a great defensive play call by the Jags and way to track the ball and reel it in. Trevor Lawrence with the scramble drill and the conversion on the offsides by Buffalo that was called in the game. Very elite play by Trevor Lawrence. The roughing the passer call on quarterback Josh Allen by defensive lineman Josh Allen. I understood that call. He hit him up high. You saw the helmet pop back. You saw the helmets collide on camera. I didn't really think that was much to really go over. But what a clutch turnover to end the football game in terms of the fumble. Super clutch turnover to end this football game for the Jags. And again, that defense stepping up, bending, but not breaking. Trevor Lawrence on the game is 25 of 37, 315 yards and a tub. Travis Etienne rushed for 136 yards and 2 tubs. Calvin Ridley got back on track with a big performance in this game, leading all receivers, 122 yards on 7 catches. And the Jaguars were 10 for 18 on third down. 10 for 18 on third down against that Bills defense that, yes, did lose Matt Milano. They don't have Trey White walking into the football game, which is very unfortunate. But the Bills in this game, I mean, I feel like they had a lot of chances to win. But when the Jags step up the way that they do, or maybe not a lot of chances, but chances to win the game. And when the Jags step up the way that they do, I think the Jags really deserve to win this football game. And it's kind of a thing of, do the Jags have the Bills number? I kind of think they do. They're the only team to upset Josh Allen twice as an underdog of 5 or more points. You see the secondary didn't allow a lot of explosive plays in the first half, really forcing Josh Allen to play a lot of underneath things early. And then overall for the Jags offense, they're able to orchestrate those long drives and really keep the ball away from Buffalo, keep the ball more in their court, and go on and win a great football game. You know, whether it was Christian Kirk, Calvin Ridley, Jacksonville's weapons really popped when it mattered a lot. And the Bills did have those back-to-back touchdown drives in the fourth to really reel them back into the game. But overall, when it comes down to, you know, the turnovers that they were able to force on Josh Allen and the Bills, that's really why the Jags defense stepped up big and was able to make this game, you know, really turn out the way it did. And the fact that the Bills had won 3 straight by 28 plus points, doing what they did to the Dolphins. We saw the other games that they played in, blowing out the Commanders, blowing out the Raiders. Again, not very impressed with them. But you got to feel for Buffalo at the end of the day, despite everything that they're going through with the wins, with the losses. Not having Matt Milano and Trey White is going to be a major thing that could possibly hold them back from the Super Bowl when you talk about what the defense in the AFC is actually going to have to do, is actually going to have to become. But I'm grateful the Jags got back on track. I didn't want them to get back on track necessarily, as my Saints go in on next Thursday and play off a short week against the Jaguars. Again, I'll be there. Darby, if you're watching the show, I'm so pumped to go. Thursday Night Football in the Dome, 7:15 New Orleans time. We'll be leaving probably about 10 o'clock in the morning to get down there, catch the Airbnb, and we're going to be living it up down in New Orleans for the game. But I'm glad that the Jags get it together. I think this is a team that can play. I know this is a team that can play a lot better than what they realistically are at the moment. And the Buffalo Bills, we got to ask the question of if they're starting to be fraudulent already. Are they turning out as frauds, possibly blowing out teams, 3 straight wins of 28 plus point games, and you're losing to a team like the Jags who's trying to get it back on track? Travis Etienne with the most yards, 3rd most yards ever in an international game. Another fun stat there that I wanted to throw in. Jags beat the Bills 25-20. And I want to hear from the Jags fans and the Bills fans down in the comments. Let me know what y'all thought about the game overall. What are you expecting from these teams next? Last game here on the slate before we get into the NFL Week 6 power rankings. The Chiefs sneak by the Vikings 27-20 amongst more missed calls from the refs and Justin Jefferson leaving the football game. Thankfully, Travis Kelce avoided major injury in this game. He did lead the team with 10 catches. They literally said off the x-ray table into the end zone for Travis Kelce, double-digit catch day. Patrick Mahomes had a gorgeous throw to Justin Ross, I thought, in the first quarter of this game, but he did get away with a couple of more 50-50 throws, just like in the game last week against the Jags. And we're starting to see a little early on in the season sometimes for Mahomes trying to trust the arm a little too much, maybe not seeing defenses as well as he should or maybe as well as he could. And that's all fine and dandy. He's got some things to work out. But when you see Patrick Mahomes playing these close games to a Vikings, which they should have beat easily, to a Jets, which I'm not going to say they should have beat easily because we know the defense that the Jets presents. And if Zach Wilson can just play Jimmy Garoppolo style of football, they could be a pretty good football team. But that is the X factor is, of course, Zach Wilson. That's why they want to bring in Aaron Rodgers. But Patrick Mahomes has to start reeling in these mechanics and these 50-50 throws because I think it's going to come back and bite them in later games in the year, especially when they don't need it to. And Kansas City wasn't very disciplined in this football game. 10 penalties, but they were also better on third down. They were 3 for 3, perfect in the red zone in this game. Patrick Mahomes, again, spreading the ball out because outside of Kelce, that's what he's got to do. 10 different targets, and he really did his job when it mattered most. 12 for 18 on pass attempts between third down conversions and red zone trips combined. So he was absolute cash money. 66% completion on third down and money downs in the red zone to score. 10 different targets in multiple games this year. I want to say 3 of his 5 games, he's hitting 8 8+ targets in terms of different people that he's throwing the football to. So you have to appreciate what Kansas City is doing and doing so far with kind of, the I wouldn't say the minimal talent, but less than what we're accustomed to see them having, and they're still able to win football games, the way that they are. Travis Kelce, again, 10 catches. Glad he's able to avoid major injury. And overall, the Chiefs are really able to sneak away with this. But when you look at the Vikings side of the football, Justin Jefferson leaving with the hamstring, possibly going to IR. He finished the day 3 catches for 24 yards. I really think the Vikings had a chance to win this football game. You see it really go down to the wire all the way to Kirk Cousins taking the game-losing sack. People might be pissed about that. Sometimes he throws short of the stick. Sometimes he's going to take the sack to lose the game. That's just what Kirk Cousins can give you. But Justin Jefferson, 2 IR with the hammy, finishing with 3 catches for 24 yards. If he plays more in this football game, very good chance that the Vikings win. Very, very good chance that the Vikings win because, again, they took it down to the wire. But the Vikings are now 0-4 in one-score football games. And they start the game literally the first play of regulation with a fumble. Credit to Josh Oliver making some moves and getting out there in space, but you got to hold on to the football. And this is a continuing theme for the Minnesota Vikings. Kevin O'Connell got beginner's luck last year, winning all those one-score games. They're now 0-4 in one-score games, and their record 100% reflects it. I did like the couple of aggressions in this game. 4th and 5 call in the first quarter. You got another nice 4th and 6 in the fourth quarter. You got to love the fake punt call to convert. Plenty of first downs in this game. You can't hate on Kevin O'Connell for that. The creativity, the way he trusts his players, the schemes that he draws up, and it paid off for them as they convert these third downs in this game. Jordan Addison is emerging. He's starting to get some playing time. That was my best receiver coming into the draft. I said it is downright unfair that Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison are going to be lining up on opposite ends of the fields of each other for the Minnesota Vikings. Are you kidding me? Kirk Cousins could have a record year. And we see Jordan Addison step up as Jettas goes out. That's great to know that Addison's got that, not that characteristic, that he's got the capability to step in as a wide receiver one, which I knew he could coming in. I had him over JSN, and the eye test didn't lie to me. Him being able to prove that in this game, he's going to get his paydays later on. He's going to get bumped up in this offense if he stays a Viking for life. We hear about the Vikings possibly blowing it up. Don't know if that's really a thing, but we got a lot of teams out there at the trade deadline on Halloween that are going to need some, obviously some players. Kirk Cousins and the Vikings offense, they really fought till the very end in this game, though. I mean, they were driving down the field, making play after play. Felt like they were answering at certain points in this game, right back with the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. But the better team, the better quarterback, and the better head coach was able to really pull it out. And, the fact that they put themselves in a hole real early in this game, literally fumbling the ball on their first play from scrimmage. But when you fail to convert early red zone trips into touchdowns against the reigning Super Bowl champs and that Steve Spagnuolo defense, and you don't have any type of a rush game to control the clock, another non-existent ground game here from Minnesota, it's going to be hard. It's going to be really hard. Now, we did see some controversial calls, kinda, in this game. The late PI call from when Kirk Cousins heaved it up, I couldn't get a good enough look on that to really tell if it was PI or not. They don't throw the call, which pissed off a lot of Vikings fans. Of course, that could have put them at the goal line. But nonetheless, the Vikings didn't do enough in this football game to actually win. And they're now 0-4 in one-score games with a good bit of talent sitting on that roster. I'm not saying that they should start hauling it out for the trade deadline, but I will say that they're going to have some calls as the trade deadline comes up. No question about it. Let's go ahead and get into Week 6 power rankings for the 2023 NFL season. These are the NFL with AJL Week 6 power rankings as we walk in. You see all the teams here to the left of me. Not much of a shakeup, again, as we go through the few teams in the league that are making up my top 7, top 8, like I've talked about. It's been consistently San Francisco, Kansas City, Miami, Buffalo, Jacksonville. We've seen those teams stay up in my rankings here. We got a little bit of a shakeup down at the bottom. Cincinnati jumping back in over Green Bay after Green Bay loses horribly to the Las Vegas Raiders. Of course, we had some bye weeks there with Tampa, the Chargers. So you can't move teams, in my power rankings anyways, that do have bye weeks. But San Francisco is going to stay first. Best team in the NFL. Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, the defense. Everyone's balling. Nothing further. They win big at home to a good team. I've got the Philadelphia Eagles jumping up now as they win close on the road to a decent team, I believe, in the Rams. And if Philadelphia and Kansas City played today after Kansas City winning close on the road to a bad team in the Minnesota Vikings, that's why I have Philly above Kansas City. So San Francisco, Philly, and Kansas City round this out here. Miami wins big to a bad team at home, doing what they're supposed to do. I'm going to bump them up here to number 4. Detroit's going to climb to number 5 as they win big to a bad team at home as well. So San Francisco, Philadelphia, Kansas City, Miami, and Detroit are my top 5 teams in the NFL currently. Detroit jumps up a couple of spots. If Buffalo and Baltimore played today, I think it would be a very close football game, but I would take the Buffalo Bills over the Baltimore Ravens at this point. And I still like what the Ravens are doing. And I understand that Baltimore and Buffalo might not move enough for some people, but Buffalo lost close in London to, I guess, a decent team, we could say now. I feel like they weren't a good team really walking in. And then Baltimore loses close on the road. So I guess we could say the Steelers are a decent team. You know, they obviously have a great defense. Matt Canada is still waiting to get fired as he cannot call plays offensively for that team anymore. But if Buffalo and Baltimore would have played today, I think I would take Buffalo in the matchup. Baltimore over Jacksonville. Baltimore over Jacksonville. If they played today, I really believe that Baltimore would win that football game as well. Jacksonville still got some kinks to work out. If Jacksonville was playing at the level that I thought they could play at this point in the season, as I predicted them in the preseason and before the season started, I probably have Jacksonville above Baltimore. So Jacksonville is going to come in at, of course, the 8 spot. I would take Jacksonville over Dallas as well. If Jacksonville and Dallas played today, and especially with Dallas getting blown out to the best team in the NFL, I get it if you lose. I get it if you take them down to the wire. I even get it if you lose by 14. But you lost by 32. After handing out the tail whooping to the Patriots, you come in and take a tail whooping to the San Francisco 49ers. Seattle and LA both had bye weeks, so I'm going to leave them there. We had the Rams also staying at number 12 as they lose close at home to an elite team in the Philadelphia Eagles, so I'm not really going to demote them with some bye weeks being around them. Indianapolis, they're going to fall in at 13. I don't believe they move as well. They win close to a bad team at home without their starting quarterback. I don't believe the Titans are a good football team, but the coaching of Shane Steichen, the way that the Colts are actually able to play right now, house money, well above expectations, got them in the top 15 teams here. Going to leave Tampa Bay at 14 as they had a bye week, and I believe they deserve to stay at 14 as well. And then I'm going to bring the Cincinnati Bengals back into the mix. Jamar Chase has a franchise day, 3 touchdowns, insane amount of fantasy points, the most catches ever by a Bengals player. And that's going to round out my top 15 teams at NFL going into week 6 of the year. San Francisco, Philly, Kansas City, Miami, Detroit are the top 5. Buffalo, Baltimore, Jacksonville, Dallas, and Seattle for the 5 through 10. The Chargers, the Rams, the Colts, the Bucks, and the Bengals as the 10 through the 15. That was episode 45 of the NFL with AJL. Let's go ahead and get out of here. Was that playing the whole time? So that was episode 45 of the NFL with AJL. I appreciate everybody tuning into the show tonight. It was a packed show. It was a great show. One of the quickest shows we've had in a minute. This live is confusing me. It says we've been live for 2 hours, but I know that ain't true. Making me think we got some daylight savings time or something going on. I don't know, man. Stream's being a little weird. I really hope the music wasn't playing the whole time. Feel like somebody would have told me if it was. But I appreciate everybody tuning into the show tonight. We chopped up Jonathan Taylor getting re-signed with the Colts. The Colts possibly being able to win the AFC South. My Super Bowl bubble of the year. The first quarter all-pro team of the NFL. I appreciate y'all tapping in wherever you were. Please make sure to like the stream before you get out of here. Share the stream with somebody that you know. Subscribe on YouTube as well. Already on track to make it another killer month. Y'all are crushing it for me on TikTok. The first TikTok to not only go over 100,000 plays, but at 200,000 plays, I'm sure, as I speak here on the show. As always, the QR code on the corner of the screen will give you every bit of social media and podcast content from the NFL with AJL at the NFL with AJL. Episode 46 will be coming soon. And as I always say, I love you. I need you.